Hello YouTube, and welcome. First off, I'd like to thank whichever deity, or deities, granted me access to the alpha. Now we have that out of the way, my impressions of the alpha. I think it's fair to say that I had a bit of a rocky start to it. Getting used to so many new mechanics is never easy. The sheer weirdness of SMGs and LMGs getting more accurate the longer you fire threw me. I couldn't work out why my burst fire was so crap, and why I kept losing easy 1v1s. All of this, however, was tempered by the beautifulness of the graphics and the sound. It seems now to go without saying that if nothing else, dice games will look and sound amazing. I don't think watching streams or YouTube do it justice. The little details like the build-up of mud or water on the guns looks incredible. Combine that with the performance of DirectX 12 and I got about double the frames I was expecting on much higher settings than I would use on VF4. Feel-wise, at first, it felt very reminiscent of Star Wars Battlefront, and not in a good way. It's something about the way the character models move and the gunplay. I would say the feeling reduced the more I played, but it's still lingering in my mind. I think the gunplay is just a little hollow compared to BF4. It's more like the kind of level playing field you get in Star Wars Battlefront, and although shooting takes a little more skill in Battlefield 1, it still doesn't feel quite right. Also, you never really feel like it's a World War I game, other than the mud looking awesome. It feels to me like a World War II game with odd guns and tanks. That said, I think the guns and how they've balanced them is fairly good. In fact, in general, I think even at the alpha stage, it's a well-balanced game. There's been lots of talk about tanks being overpowered, and to begin with, when players didn't really know how to deal with them, they were. But once people started to work it out, and unlock the mini anti-tank grenade, they suddenly weren't that great, and you really had to be careful. You can still rack up the kills, but taking flags in the tanks is now very hard, unless you end up against a whole team of snipers. And that happens a lot, because snipers are a little too good at the moment. Not to mention, they feel a lot more authentic because you get to use a bolt action. I really think DICE should think about adding an all-class bolt action. I think it would really help the problem with the snipers. The problem is at close range, bullet travel time is very quick, so good shots almost always hit. Then, all you need is a quick pistol switch and spam with the pistol and the enemy drops super fast. And at long range, they have almost no drop. The amount of shots I fired over the heads of long range targets was mad. The planes were a little weird to fly. Not as horrible as Star Wars Battlefront, but not as nice as BF4. I'm not really a plane person, and if I was up against anyone with talent, I died very quickly. I was also glad to discover that again, the air is quite well balanced against tanks and infantry. This has a lot to do, however, with spotting, and in the alpha the majority of players seem to have no idea what this was. I mean, in Battlefield 4, it's not the most common thing, but probably a good third of players do it. In the alpha, maybe me and one other person were doing it per round. All I can assume is the large majority of players invited played COD or were children. And because they've removed the audio spotting, player spotting is much more important. And I think once the game hits retail, this problem will mostly disappear. But in the alpha, it was a real problem for me. In general, I'm not a fan of melee in FPSs. I think it's always been bad in Battlefield. But you can't argue with the satisfaction of bayonet charge kills. The animations are awesome, and as far as I can tell, you aren't invincible whilst doing it. The kills with melee weapons, I'm not really into, but they don't feel vastly OP, and again, the animations are cool. The only problem I had with the bayonet charge was every now and then, you would just run through the enemy without it triggering, and be left flailing around, trying not to get shot in the back. And it's a horrible feeling. And it's a horrible feeling because you can't cancel it, you just have to wait for it to end. Also, I couldn't get it to activate every time. Sometimes, I was just left swinging my axe in the air like a special person. The changes to try and reward teamwork, and capping, more than killing, are positive, but players don't behave the same as they would in the proper release, so it's hard to tell just how much of an impact these changes will have long term. Overall impressions then, were mostly positive. I hope general opinion was the same as mine, and that DICE will be willing to take the feedback and be able to quash the bugs in time for retail, if not the beta. I'm looking forward to being able to play with mates on comms, because I think it will be a lot of fun as a squad, and probably enhance the experience a fair bit. And if the launch is as solid as the alpha, We have a good game on our hands. Will it have the longevity of BF4? Well, that remains to be seen. I'm not sure myself. I love the Hardline and Battlefront betas, and look how they turned out. Only time will tell. Anyway, thanks for watching, YouTube. Remember to like and comment and subscribe for more. And I'd love to hear your feedback if you played the alpha, or, you know, just what you thought from seeing it. See ya, YouTube!